This moment in time, that's why we call this the 10-second miracle. It's a miracle that happens in virtually a second. We call it the 10-second, the 5-second miracle, whatever. It's a nanosecond miracle. So the moment you change that vibration, then everything instantaneously starts changing. Now the manifestation may take hours, days, weeks, or months, but that's irrelevant. The moment you change the vibration, instantaneously everything just starts reversing. It's like in the cartoon, the spear is coming right at you. But the moment you change it, it just stops, turns around, and goes the other way. Instantaneous. There's not a slowdown period. It just stops that fast. And that's why people see miracles even in physiological health. My tumor's growing, and then all of a sudden they use this to change the vibration, and then in 24 hours, that tumor the size of a grapefruit is gone. And medical science can never explain that. They just say they use the word miracle. There's no scientific medical explanation of how this grapefruit-sized tumor is gone. And we know there are documented thousands upon thousands of worldwide documented cases of real people who have real, not made up, not fantasy symptoms. Real, here's the x-ray, here's the freaking tumor. Okay, it's there, and 24 hours later, it's gone. It ain't there anymore. And the person is absolutely, that is documented infinitum, and nobody wants to discuss it at length, but, even on the Discovery channels and so forth, it's there. And nobody can explain how that happens. There's no scientific way of biologically explaining it. So if you have a lot of negative vibration out there, and you're learning this for the first time and you're going to change that today, everything has changed the moment you change the thought process. And the most important thing that changed is how you feel. Imagine the circumstances are exactly the same. The guy's screwed. He doesn't have any money. He can't pay his bills. He has no idea how it's going to come in. The circumstances had not changed at all for that guy. But what changed was his thinking, and virtually in an instant, he went from feeling stressed, challenged, miserable, and so forth, to feeling just blissfully happy, and he had no reason to. Because if you looked at the circumstances, there was no reason to be stupidly happy. But he wasn't looking at the circumstances. He wasn't looking at what he could see on the radar screen. He realized that what was off the radar screen, what was outside of his view, was absolutely fine. As if the radar screen expanded and he saw the cavalry coming. Oh, it's coming. Okay. See, again, that's how you have to imagine. If he got a phone call and said, we're going to send you $1 million check today, we just settled the case, he would feel good, right? Well, obviously, because he has a physical manifestation. This is even a spiritual, biblical principle, where it says, bless those who have not seen. Remember, for those of you who are Christians or read the biblical text, there's an example in the New Testament where I think Thomas goes up to Jesus and says, I want to put my fingers in the marks in your hands and feet to see it, and put my hand in your side where you were stung by the spear to see if you're real. And he saw him, and he goes, now I believe. And he goes, well, yeah, you believe because you saw it. Bless those who didn't see and still believe. And that's a principle of, if you know you're getting the check, you're going to be happy. But when there's no evidence of it coming in, none at all. As a matter of fact, nothing but contra-evidence, contradictory evidence, and you're still stupidly happy, that's when the magic occurs. That's when the magic occurs. And again, from a biblical standpoint, it doesn't make a difference what religion you are or if you're an atheist, but I'm just using this as an example. But from a biblical standpoint, it is the definition of, quote, faith. It says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So someone says, you have no money. That's right. How come you're happy? Well, everything will be fine. Give me the evidence that money's going to come in to be able to pay your bills. I can't give you the evidence. That's faith. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. I just know everything will be fine. And if I have any evidence, it's 55 years of experience knowing that everything always is fine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens when a group of people have contrasting vibrations? Let's say we're in a plane and my vibration is that we fly, and the guy next to me's vibration is that we crash.
That's right. It's like the guy says, what if it's the pilot's time to go?
Right, yeah, I say that from time to time because I always wonder, who wins?
It's a very interesting question, and the answer is, if you get into a car crash, you and the person that were both in the car crash both had the same vibration to cause the car crash. So I can categorically tell you that the thousands of minor little situations that caused a person to buy a ticket on that plane and make it on time or not make it on time, everybody on there was vibrating the same, attracting the same result. And sometimes it's hard to believe. I'm not going to expand on it here, but that's something that, there was a movie that came out with Brad Pitt called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And it's an interesting movie to watch. But there's one particular scene in there with this woman gets hit by a car and her leg gets crushed. And the narrator says, there was a woman in her apartment who was leaving her apartment. But as she left, the phone rang. So she stopped and went back in to answer the phone. There was a cab driver who decided unexpectedly to stop for a cup of coffee. And then he'd get in this cab and he started driving. But a car pulled out and ran out of gas right in front of him, causing it to be delayed. The woman's phone call went longer than expected, and she was running late to get to the bakery. And it went over through these whole series of events where the woman gets in the cab drives down the road and hits this woman and crushes her legs. And the example was, if any one of these dozens of things happened just 1 second differently, if the phone didn't ring, if the cab driver didn't get a cup of coffee, if that car didn't pull out in front of the cab and run out of gas, if blah, 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 if anything was different, anything at all, then that cab wouldn't have been there at that moment in time to crush that woman's legs. And the answer is, when you think about that, that's why when you throw out a vibration, the whole universe is conspiring and creating virtually tens of thousands of events which work perfectly with each individual's vibration too, to create that situation in your experience. So if you're on that plane and that plane crashed, believe me, there was some vibration in every single person on that plane that was creating that event. And sometimes it's hard to believe. It's like, I'm driving down the road and I'm feeling happy, and all of a sudden, boom, a guy crashes right into me. Someone says, I wasn't thinking about a car crash. I wasn't vibrating, I want a car crash. I want to crash my car. I want to crash. I wasn't doing that. How did that occur? And the answer is this. The answer is you absolutely were not vibrating the car crash. And that's why on the CDs I talk more about the importance of your vibration is feeling, not necessarily the thing itself, because we're all not that smart. We may not know the best house for us, the best car, the best job. We may not know specifically what is the best thing to happen for us, but what we know is how we want to feel. So what occurs is, when a guy gets in a car crash, he wasn't vibrating car crash. The question is, when you got into that car crash, how'd you feel? I felt incredibly frustrated. Somebody else, I felt incredibly scared. Somebody else, I felt so overwhelmed because now I don't have enough time to do everything as it is, and now with this car crash, I'm going to have less time. Whatever feeling that car crash gave that person, then I asked that person, over the last few weeks, what else have you been thinking about which gave you a similar feeling? And then all of a sudden, eyes get as wide as saucers, and people go, oh, yeah, I've been really, my aunt has been in the hospital with cancer, and I've really been scared myself. I've been really fearful of death, fearful of death, fearful of death, fearful of death, fearful of death. Car crash! How did you feel? It made me fear of getting killed. Do you understand that? It wasn't the car crash that they were vibrating. It was a feeling that they were vibrating, and the universe starts bringing into your experience people, events, and situations which will give you similar feelings. That's what keeps coming in. the events that gives you similar feelings. That's why when you're grateful and you're happy and you're going, thank you, thank you, thank you, everything, man, I just feel so good. I just feel so lucky. I feel so lucky. Ding dong, hello. You just won the lottery. Oh, I can't believe how lucky I feel. All of a sudden, situations and events got popping into your life where you continue to feel what? Lucky. If you feel grateful, then situations and events start popping in where you continue to feel more grateful. And that's a really good place to be. It's a really high vibration because there's nothing bad that could come into your life that would make you feel grateful, right? Those are like really good things. Yes?
My wife got reminded kind of on this topic a month ago, and she said how weird it was. She goes, about 5 seconds before, she was stopped at a light. She goes, I felt I was going to get into an accident. I look in the rearview mirror, I see the guy stop behind me, and I'll see I go peer up again, and I'll see, wham, the guy behind him at 40 miles an hour hit and did that. So, I mean, that was kind of one of the things I was going to talk about was that feeling. I mean, how do you change your feelings? I stubbed my toe. Is the positive like, oh, I'm glad I didn't chop it off? I mean, how do you change your feelings to be
when something bad happens?
Yeah, or just along the lines, if I had no money and I was losing a house or this, how do I know my thoughts were negative compared to being...
You don't have to worry about them. The question is, if something bad happens or something negative happens, how am I controlling my thoughts and really what I'm doing? The answer is everything that happens in your life is there's really not good or bad situations. There's really not positive or negatives. They're just events. They're just circumstances. They're just experiences. There's really nothing good or bad. And if we look at it that way, there's nothing really good or bad. All they are is an indicator of what you're vibrating. Everything that's happening in your life is just nothing but an indicator of what you're vibrating. So if you don't particularly like what's happening in your life, that just is an indicator that your vibration needs to be changed. If you really like the circumstance in your experience, that just tells you that the vibrations are something that you want to continue. It's nothing more than indicators of what you're vibrating. So if you experience something like stubbing your toe, and you think, how did I do, why, ow, why did I stub my toe? You don't have to, get so crazy about every single thought, because that's just an indicator that you're emanating some, how do you feel? I feel annoyed. I feel clumsy. I feel, whatever the feeling is. And all that is telling you, and keep in mind, they usually start small. So the indicators are good. They're like, thank you, tell me. It's like, I'm driving down the road, and I see a little red light, and it goes, oh, my gas gauge, I need to get some petrol. That's a good indicator. It doesn't annoy me. It's just a little light. It just tells me, hey, get some gas, get some petrol, or you run out. The next indicator will be the car stops. Now that's, you follow me? They get worse as we go along. So if you stub your toe, minor indicator, but it does tell you. It just is a little like, hey, you're vibrating something. What's the feeling you got? Fine. Thank you for telling me. Follow me? Thank you. Is that a good thing? Yeah, because it's somebody telling you, hey, smack, wake up. Thank you for telling me before I get into a real problem. Like driving down the road and you start to doze off, and the person next to you gives you a whack in the ribs. Hey, wake up. Thank you for telling me, otherwise we would have crashed and died. So there's an indicator there. So the next indicator would have been crash, right? So you should be, that's why you're thankful for the situations that come in. That's the first reason you should always be thankful, that they're indicators so you can change your vibration. The second one is if you are aware that everything's going to be perfect, then whatever circumstance happens right now, you don't and can't comprehend the rational reason why that is